week. I hope you've had a good week. I hope you're safe. Um, so talking about books this week, which is a step away from what I normally do. I don't normally recommend anything. But giving somebody the ability to read really does empower them hugely. I mean, you really can't comprehend it how much somebody can be empowered once they know how to read. I think we take it for granted too much. Um, and once people know how to access the right information, and I always harp on about that, accessing the right information is so empowering and can make such a world of difference to somebody. So with that in mind, there was some books that I recommended in this week's blog. I did name four, but then I named a few. I didn't go into any detail on them, but I did name a few more, and I will try and go through them all this morning. They're in no particular order, so just because something is number one on the list doesn't mean that's my top favorite or anything like that. And I'm sure you've heard of these before. I just thought I'd give them a mention. Somebody who mightn't have heard of them might pick up something, might decide to read them. Where possible, I've also tried to go and look for them in as many formats as possible. The links I've given, it was the only reason I've given those particular links in the book, in the blog, sorry, is that that was the easiest way for me to find them and show you what the cover looks like. This is the book. This is the correct pronunciation of the author's name. So I'm going to apologize in advance if I get somebody's name wrong. That happens, and I've also tried to link out to the library, which is in Ireland. But if they're available in Ireland, guys, they are available elsewhere in the world. So ebook and audiobook format as well, where you can. I know the older books I list towards the end, they are available in the library. They are in Ireland. But they're in paperback. But you could check with your own local library. Can we get these in audio or ebook format as well? So with that in mind, let's get going. Um, the first one was Feel Better in Five by Dr. Chatterjee. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce the name. The man's name is Doctor. I'm not sure, but I believe he's been on television and that. Very good. Picked this up. Thought it'd be worth a read. Really was. So much so that I picked up another book of his. Really good ideas. Very simple tips. The other book he's written, I think, is a more recent one, also really good read too. So it's the whole idea is that we want to change our lifestyle, and as a doctor, as a GP, what he found was people were failing at that. So he came up with this concept. He's not the first one to come up with this concept, I have to say. Taking 5 minutes a day, 3 times a day, to make a small change in your life, and therefore effectively changing your whole lifestyle. Really good tips based on science, really good. They work. We know they work. Pretty obvious ones, a lot of common sense in there. The tips that cover the mind, the body, and the heart, i.e., the soul, basically. I think that's what he uses the word heart in there. Um, Easy and simple to do. That's the whole idea, to take simple, small, basic baby steps. And I've talked about this, how, if you want the brain to cooperate, if you want small change, if you want to change in your lifestyle, then you need small changes, mini habits. I've talked about this. I did a whole video on it. I've done a couple of blogs, I think, and a couple of videos on it. So the smallest change can make it stick, and therefore the lifestyle change is more likely to stick. And that's the whole premise behind this book. Um, Again, it is available. It's available in ebook and audiobook format, which is great. So you can go get it if you really love it. You could then go and buy it if you wanted to keep it. It was something you wanted to keep. Um, I would try it if you really want to make those small changes, holistic changes, and you're willing to give it a shot. I think this would appeal more to women than men. I don't know. Maybe I'm being sexist there. Sorry, I apologize. But I just felt from reading it, I felt it would be more, it would stick a little bit better with women. Another similar book that was out, has been out for a good while, was Mini Habits. Again, I've linked that as well in the book. But it is a good book. I mean, have a read of it, have a listen to it, whatever way you want to do it. try it out, even try one change, 5 minutes a day, and then maybe try building in, the next time doing another, next week, build in another 5 minutes and build it up to your 15 minutes a day to make those small changes. You can do whatever way you want as long as you start doing it. You have to do it though. You have to stick with it. And that's the whole idea, is that if it's so small, you will stick with it. So number 2 is Seven Seeds of Calm by Caroline Cunningham. She's an Irish author. She's written this book, and it is a workbook as well, about anxiety. It's from her own perspective. I really loved that. I really loved that she did it that way. She's basing it on what she calls the 7 C's. So I'm just going to read those out. That's comfort, comprehend, challenge, commitment, check in, conquer, and celebrate. Celebrate is always very important. And I really thought this was very useful book. I got a hold of it before it was published, and I was so impressed with it. I actually gave it a recommendation on the back of the book, so you will see my name there. It is very good. It really is. If you've got anxiety, understanding your anxiety, making small steps and changes to help you, this book will really help you. This is a really good, and it has a workbook in it. Um, so again, there's a link out to buying it on the website. And I do highly recommend that one. Number 3, um, and these are two I would not, this one and the next one is two I would not have normally picked up. Um, I went and I picked this one up thinking about somebody else. I'm always thinking, you know, wake up in the middle of the night, I'm thinking about a client, and I'm going, okay, what would help? What would help? So this was one I picked up from one of my. I do work with men. I predominantly work with women, but I do work with men as well. Um, and this is one I picked up specifically for somebody I knew and I was working with. And it really surprised me. I have to say, this one surprised me. I thought it was really good, packed full of information, exercises again that you can do. It's Battle Ready by Ollie Ollerton. Again, might have pronounced it wrong. Um, Loads of tips. He talks about his own journey. He's former SAS, as far as I know. Um, Talks about it from his own perspective of addiction, depression, and his own journey through things that he used to help. I believe he's done a whole program around this. High stress as well. If you're high stress sufferer, I think this will be a good one for you as well. Again, it is available in the library in ebook and audiobook format, so worth a listen to, worth a read. Lots of exercises in there that you can try. So do check that one out. Number 4, again, another one I wouldn't have picked up, but this was recommended by a friend of mine. She's an art therapist. And she said, check this out. It's really good. And it's a topic I've talked about. I talked about it in my own book, which was on money. And I talk about it as finance and honesty. But this goes into it in a lot more detail. I only give a chapter to it. This one is Money, a Love Story by Kate Northrup, and I'm sure you know the name Northrup. Her mother is a doctor, and I'll come to her in a minute. Um, Again, really good, because money, we can get very highly stressed out by money, very anxious around money and debt, and our relationship with money. And it's never about the money. It really isn't. It's never about the money. It is about your underlying beliefs about money. It is always about negativity that you have surrounding the money. And if you want to change that relationship, you need to work on it. I think the original exercises that I was introduced to was with Louise Hay. I'm going to talk about Louise in a minute. Brilliant work that is now well researched, scientific research backing it. That Louise Hay would have started decades ago before anybody. Everybody thought it was woo woo science, and it's not. Really good information there. So this is, really good exercises in this book. If money is causing you stress, then it is worth looking at. It just doesn't take, getting your debts in order, talking to people, somebody like Mabs in Ireland, talking to them, or Walya, same group in Ireland, if you've got problems there, and, facing up to what's going on in your life. But even if you haven't got that, um, if you feel you have some underlying negative beliefs around money, then this is worth a look at. I thought it's a really simple book, straight to the point, and again, the author talks about it from her own point of view. So again, link out. I couldn't find links for audio or ebook there. I'm sorry, but perhaps you will. You'll have a better chance at doing that. Other books. So there were other books than that I mentioned. I just ran through them. I didn't go into much detail on them. I can't skip my own book. Sorry, guys. Gonna do promo here. Um, so the building blocks of self care was and is a 12-step program that I devised for myself. I came in it from my own point of view as to rebuild my life. Um, and what I took, the steps I took to rebuild my life. And the 12 steps, 12 building blocks are in the first part of this book. It's being expanded to incorporate two more parts. And basically, they talk about boundaries and stress and all that, and then other life events that women face down the years, over the years that you might face, and how these building blocks can help you, how these basic foundations, I call them the collapse point. Now, if you want some free courses around that, come into my group. Okay, there's a link there. Come into my group. You'll get loads of free courses on these building blocks. So come in there and do that. Right, getting on to the older books. Now these are all older books, and the reason I've included them is because they're classics. They are older, but they're wiser. So they have stood this test of time. Any book by Melody Beattie on codependency is absolutely a must if you've been in or are in a relationship with an addict. I didn't mention it, but Craig Natkin's book, The Addictive Personality, is also an excellent book to get your hands on. If you want to understand an addict and what, I don't care what type of an addict they are, is a really excellent book for that as well. Being Happy, another one which I thought was brilliant when I read it many, 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 many years ago, by Andrew Matthews. Looking at your life, your whole life, and how it affects your happiness. Great, absolutely brilliant book there too. And of course, Louise Hay's books. A lot of the work that Louise Hay was doing years ago, I mean, decades ago, we're now seeing the scientific research coming through and saying, yes, trauma can affect us on a DNA level, and that it can change you and it can influence all the next generations. So a lot of the stuff she talks about is now coming through. Um, so, have a look at it. Any of her books are really good. I do recommend a couple of her earlier ones. Well worth it. Homecoming, which is, I think, a classic by John Bradshaw. If you want to do inner child work, and I've talked about inner child work before, so do go and check that blog out if you want to find out more about it. This is a good one, but this one I would say use it in conjunction with working with a therapist. That's the only caveat I would say about that one. There are two books on mindfulness, both excellent. The Mindful Way Through Depression, very, very good. There is another one, a newer one that they brought out, which was the Mindful Way Workbook, and that is an 8-week course, step-by-step course with a CD that you can do. Excellent book, excellent workbook. You get your hands on that one. The next one is again a classic. Feel the fear and do it anyway. I mean, a lot of people actually use that phrase so much, but again, really good. Coming on to Dr. Christiana Northrup, this is Kate Northrup's mother, has been doing so much work in terms of a holistic approach to women and their not just their physical health, but as a doctor herself, but she also incorporated the mind body long before most people were doing it. Doctors were doing it. So Mother Daughter Experience, or any other of her books, there you can get. I know you can get a lot of her stuff in the library. Very good books to get your hands on if you want to understand, as a woman, you want to understand your body and relationship, in a holistic way of how the mind body works, and that very good. Great book to have on your shelf. She just one on menopause is really good as well. um the last one I'll mention is Freedom from Pain by Peter Levine, and I think it's Maggie Phillips. It's Levine and Phillips anyway. This is a body-based approach to healing. So it's somatic experiencing. Now, there's an awful lot of information out there on this at the moment. I think you'll notice there's more and more and more, as we understand it, we're putting out the information as much as we can. But Peter Levine has been doing this work a long, you know, Bradshaw and Louise Hayes were all doing this work for a long, 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 long time. Um, really good information. Those books, if you can get your hands on that, that comes with a CD. Um, the only caveat I'd say about the Freedom from Pain book is I would do it if you're already in therapy. I would use that with it. I would wait and use that, but that's up to you. I can only recommend that I think they're very good books. I think they're books I would recommend, and I do recommend them to people. So that's it. Um, I hope you get something out of that. If you've any recommendations, as I stated in the blog, I am a bookworm. I'm a big, big bookworm. I'd rather have my head buried in a book than do most things most days. And I have been like that since I was small. So that's me. So, any recommendations? If you've got recommendations, feel free to post them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And I will talk to you all again next Saturday morning. And stay safe, mind yourself, mind your mental health, and I will talk to you then.